people think you join a cult, but the cult finds you. Wow, this person is verbally abusing me. Wow, but I need to be verbally abused. This rebuke is love. Are you telling me the leader had all these sexual relationships with these women?
Yeah.
But we never knew that because
go.
the man is sinless. He doesn't commit a sin.
Yeah.
No relationships, no alcohol.
Relationships.
No relationships.
No relationships at all.
So even girlfriend, boyfriend?
No, cannot. Then I was like, wow, this is crazy. I think I am in a cult. Like, I was shattered.
All right, Dos, we've got a very special guest here today. We're going down a topic that we've never covered on the dos&d show, but we're going to share his story in just a moment. But first, Othniel Chisi, welcome to the dos&d show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Now, firstly, did I pronounce that okay?
That was
Yeah,
correct.
Okay, good.
We
100%.
struggle with some introductions.
You got that
occasionally,
spot on.
so-
A lot of people struggle to say my name, but you guys, I love it.
So you've
It's so good.
obviously shared your story a bit, but have you been on any podcast before? Is this
I haven't. This is my first one.
okay?
This is exciting.
This is good.
Well, we
Yeah.
came across, we were just talking off air, we came across your story halfway probably through last year, and we're doing some research for different type of topics we could have on this show. Read your story online, was super fascinated, but wanted to dig deeper. So we're so excited to go into today's topic. But before we do, let's go back to when you moved to Australia. Tell us a little bit briefly about your background in Zimbabwe and then coming across here.
So I was raised in Zimbabwe. So I was born in Zimbabwe, raised in Botswana and South Africa. So I moved to Botswana when I was around 12 years.
Okay.
And, you know, I feel like people always ask me the question, like, where's home for you? And I always say it's wherever I am because I've always changed, like, locations. So, yes, I came here 2019. That's when I moved to Melbourne. And that was around, it was actually on my birthday. So the 21st of July, that's when I arrived. So for me, that was like an amazing gift, just being in a different country. And I've always wanted to be in Australia. You know, I always wanted to travel abroad. I always wanted to go to a different location. So that's when I came here. And I felt like when I arrived, it was a different, completely different scene to where I'm from. Like the people completely, they look different. You know, the culture is different. The food, Melbourne being very diverse, so different. I was super excited, man. I was so buzzing. So I remember I spent like a week when I arrived without like any bedding, like without any food, because I kind of arrived late. I had to start my semester. So I kind of arrived like 3 days late. I needed to catch up. But I spent like a week. I didn't eat anything. I was just like going back from uni, going back to my hostel where I was living. And I was just like buzzing. I remember I was just like, dude, what is like this Uber Eats? What is like
Yeah.
Uber? What is Maps? You know? And I
Yeah.
was still like learning all these things. So for me, that was a really special moment coming to Australia, coming to Melbourne at that time.
And you came here to study, right?
And I came here to study, yeah.
Yeah.
So you would have been what, not 18, 19 years old?
I was 19 at the time,
Yep.
yeah. And
Yeah.
now I'm 25.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So coming over here, obviously to study, how was it leaving your family behind and now finding new friends? Like making new friends is difficult in 2025 now, we need to say.
Yeah.
Because of the online world. But how was it leaving your family?
Because I arrived just before COVID, this was like in 2019, I felt like it wasn't difficult for me just because when I was younger, I was at boarding school. So I was always away from my family. I was always like traveling for football. So I was used to being alone. So for me, I was so happy. I was like, dude, I don't have to see my parents anymore. I was like, this is freaking sick. Of course, I still had like my morals and my values, but I just wanted to go somewhere and be independent. So that was really cool. It's only like literally recently where I was starting to say, dude, I actually miss my parents.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would say, yeah, that was really amazing for me. It was,
How many siblings?
I've got 3, so we're
Okay.
4.
Yep.
Just 4 guys.
4 boys.
No sisters, no
The
girls.
brothers. The
Yeah,
brothers are-
Yeah.
Just the brothers.
I was going to say it too. I was going to use a wrestling reference.
And also, because it's going to lead into the main part of the story we're about to get into, but growing up and your family, was there religious beliefs? And if so, how strong were they?
Yeah, it's we were born and raised Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like everybody mostly in Africa, especially if you're in southern part of Africa, you are either Christian or Muslim, right? And I was born Christian. I was born in a very, very strong Christian home. So my parents were like, this is what you need to practice. You know, this is what you need to believe in. And yeah, I guess that's all I knew at the time. So coming here for me was a revelation because I started to see that, people practice different beliefs. They've got different beliefs. They practice different things. And for me, that was like, wow, okay, so there's more to life than just Christianity. Not saying Christianity is wrong, but it just opened my mind in that sense. But yeah, and I guess that's how I found myself I found myself looking for and then falling into a cult, a religious cult in that sense, because I was looking for that sense of belonging. I was looking for that church. I was looking for that which I had at home, but here in Australia.
Yeah, that sense of community.
That sense of community. And when you're back home, you know about Hillsong, Planet Shakers. They're like really big here. I did like go there and experience it, but it wasn't exactly as I thought. So I was like, okay, I'm looking for something smaller. That's what I was looking for when I came, just to get me started.
Yeah, so how did you find the group? I'm assuming it's a church group.
Yeah.
You say you work out later being a cult. How did you find the group?
Dude, you know what's the funniest thing? Like, people think you join a cult, but the cult finds you.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I was at the university, Victoria University in Footscray, and I was just like going from one class to another class. And then I remember this lady walked up to me and she was smiling. She was like so happy and excited. And I was like, why is she so happy and excited? I was like, I'm not that handsome.
Oh, you're a pretty good looking bloke, I must say. Yeah.
Great.
And then I was like, oh, wow, she's got a lot of confidence because she's approaching me. That's the first thing. We don't have that a lot. And then she started talking to me, just getting to know me. And I was like also asking questions, getting to know her and stuff. And then she asked me this one question. She was like, is there anything because she had already figured out that I'm Christian. She already figured out that I'm international and that I'm pretty new to the place. So she was ticking criterias, because that's what you do.
Assessing you and working out, is he perfect material for
The
us?
old yes letter.
Is he the right fit for us? So, and I didn't know that at that point in time. So of course I was just talking to her, revealing these things. And I was like, wow, this person is a really cool person. So she was like to me, okay, do you have any question about the Bible that that you don't know, that you're trying to find out? Then I was like, yeah, I've got this question. And I asked her a question. She's like, oh, cool. I also had that question.
What was the question? Do you remember?
What was the question? I don't really remember, to be honest. But I was like to her, yeah, that's my question. And then she's like, I've got a mentor who can answer that question. And any other question you have, she knows everything about the Bible. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I remember saying to her, all right, I have to go for a class. I'll be out in about 3 hours and I'll go for football and stuff like that.
It's a long
She's
class.
like, I'll wait for you.
Yeah, it's a long class.
It's a long class. So she was like, I'll wait for you. I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, I'll wait for you. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's not weird.
Yeah.
She waited. I came out of the
Wow.
class and she was there. And then somehow her mentor appeared. She's like, my mentor is here. My mentor is over there. We can go and meet her. Then I was like, oh, okay, but whatever. That's cool. You know what I mean? And then I met her mentor. We actually had like a small mini Bible study at that time. It was like 30 minutes, simple, short. And I left that place feeling, wow, this is good. This person knows their stuff. I was like, it's convenient. It's at university. I can just come here. I was like, this is nice. Can we do this here? And then she's like, yeah, we can do it here. We can do it anywhere you want. I was like, oh, yeah, cool. I don't have to go to the city or anywhere else, to go to church. So I guess that's how I kind of found myself starting to get into the clutches of this cult.
So I've got so many questions buzzing through my mind, and I don't want to jump too far ahead. But so to really paint the picture, because I think a lot of people, I understand from your perspective, you've come from another country and you're really new to the country and you're meeting people for the first time. I'm asking myself the question, would my BS meter go off? Would I kind of go, is there something fishy going on here? So
Yeah.
The leader of this cult, can you describe kind of what they looked like? Did they look abnormal or did they look totally...
Yeah, that's a very good question, because the thing that cults thrive upon is they don't reveal to you everything about the group, right? It's like an onion. So you get a bit of the outer layer, and then the more you get indoctrinized, the more you fall into the group, the more they reveal all these things about the group, right? So you don't know for a long time. And if you ask, they'll lie to you. They'll tell you, well, we're just missionaries and whatever, but they're going to review it later. So I didn't know who this guy was. I can describe him right now.
So the leader was a man.
The leader was a man.
Okay.
Yeah, he is still a man. Yeah, he is still a man.
So I'm sorry, I was trying to put the leader isn't the mentor. That was at the
He isn't
beginning.
the mentor.
Okay.
Yeah, he isn't the mentor. So, and you never get to meet the leader because he's in South Korea, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, he's not even here. He's in South Korea. It's a South Korean cult.
Sorry to ask this, but have you seen that? Did you ever watch The Simpsons growing up, or have you seen much
I
of
have
The
seen a
Simpsons?
bit of it.
Have you seen the episode where they go into a cult and there's the leader? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Don't worry then. Don't worry.
Actually,
the listeners that know what I'm talking about, it's for you guys.
I
Yeah.
actually want to look.
It's
look that up.
you'll probably, hopefully, if you're not too traumatized from it all, you'll probably find it very funny now. But please,
I think
continue.
it'll be relatable because most of these things are very relatable.
Oh, it's very-
You'd be like,
yeah.
It makes sense. And I'm now at a point in time in my life where I can talk about it and I can joke about it just
Yeah.
because I've done all the work to heal from it.
Sure.
A lot of people aren't, and that's also understandable. But I'm in that place, so if I joke about it now, like it's okay. Like we can joke
Yeah.
about it in that sense. The leader is South Korean. He's a very short man. He's almost like 1'4", like 1 meter for 40 centimeters. He's very small. Like
Wow.
if you look at him, he's not charismatic. He's not appealing. He just looks like a farmer because he was actually a farmer. He just looks like a random person. You could just pass by him on the street and not even really care.
See, that surprises me because I would have thought you'd have this really charismatic,
Handsome.
yeah,
tall.
good looking, yeah,
You know,
Yeah. Kind of like, maybe, I don't know, the way they describe Jesus is like
yeah.
blonde, handsome, you know,
Yeah.
kind of like that. But he's completely the opposite. But the power that he has is crazy. It's so tremendous because he's got like 400,000 people who worship him, literally
Wow.
worship him, who do anything he says, even until today.
hope you're enjoying this episode with Othniel. Have to thank our partners, Fleet Plan Hire Solutions. They are the best in the business and number one when it comes to all things earth moving equipment. All projects, big, small, little, massive. They're the ones that have it all. Head to fbh.com.au, find out more. Back to the episode with OT himself. You mentioned that the leader, the 400,000 people, they worship him. Was it 400,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And it's growing.
and it's growing.
And it's growing.
What's your point of contact with him, the leader? Because obviously, I'm assuming there's different locations all around the world that all worship are in this cult.
Yeah.
What does your community look like? Who's the mentor or the leader of your community?
Yeah. Okay. So the structure is quite complex because, of course, in a cult, it starts off with the leader, right? He is the one who people worship. But the thing is, under him comes, well, in this cult, there are like 12 leaders under him. And then they sort of govern different parts of the world. And then people under them are called tribes, and they've got different tribe names in the Bible. And then under them, they are obviously church leaders. Then under the church leaders, they are kind of like group leaders. Then under group leaders, they are team leaders, kind of like that. So the person who I'd met was like, if you think about it in terms of like, I don't know, like power, I met like the person who was like the low power version, right? I met that person who was a team leader. They are the one who explained the Bible to me. And then the more you learn, the more you meet kind of like the next level leaders. And then you're like, wow.
Yeah, you've passed level 1.
I passed level
OT,
1.
Now you go to level 2.
And I got it. And you know, that's exactly how it's structured.
That's scary.
It's kind of like it's planned spontaneity where they plan this mystical, they manipulate this scene to becoming mystical where you meet someone and then they tell you, wow, you're special. You know, you're really a special person. They love bomb you. Then they tell you things like, I think God allowed us to meet. And you're like, wow, that's so true, right? They answer your questions. And then over time, of course, you start to like these people, right? And they kind of don't like you the way you like them. They're just trying to get you into the cult because they also have like this point system there where they're trying to get people in. And then over time, when you move from the smaller group, you move to a bigger group, which has about 100 people in the classes. So 100 people in the classes. Then from there, you spend about 9 months. After the 9 months when you've been indoctrinized and then, you know, you're ready, then you take a test. If you pass the test, you go to the church.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like a whole process which has been really carefully orchestrated and created so that by the time you get to the church, you aren't leaving. You aren't turning back. No chance.
So the first one that comes to my mind is like Scientology and
Yeah.
the amount of money that's in that and you pay your way through. Did you ever have to pay for things? How does this cult make? Is it a money making machine?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I had to think about when I left. I was like, what does the leader want? One, it's money for sure. He gets money, power. He loves power, and I was like, so what are the things that I gave when I was in the cult? Some cults like Scientology, yes, it's like you pay money
Yep.
constantly. In this cult, you pay with your soul, right?
Oh,
and
that sounds scary.
yeah,
Oh.
you do. And because they spend so much time and they invest in you, you aren't going to leave easily because now they've captured your mind, they've captured your heart, your emotions. It's not just your body. Your body you can leave, but everything is now there. So because of that, you stay longer. And you're now becoming like recurring revenue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You pay tithe every time. You pay for a lot of different things that they just create. Oh, we're creating a construction building. Oh, we're paying to the leader because of this. Oh, he's in prison. We need to pay, we need to send some money for him and things like this. And people who happily pay, people who happily sacrifice whatever they have just for the leader. So I've seen a lot of people who've quit their jobs, people who have given away their cars, sold their cars and then put that money into the church.
Wow.
It's money, 100% is money. And time. Time is another thing that's so important because I remember being so busy. Like, I don't even know if anyone can ever be this busy. I would only sleep like 3 to 4 hours, like every night for 3 years that I was there. And that is not exaggerated. And I would still be able to perform, which is the funny thing, right?
Wow.
3 to 4 hours, and I would still be able to perform every day. I would still be able to wake up, teach students, evangelize, like going everywhere, talking to people, trying to get them in. I would still be able to go and study my own stuff, work, and then go and sleep and do it again. You know what I mean? Because you're constantly in this really focused, obsessive kind of zone, which you can't get as a normal person. You know what I mean? You need to really believe in something so much where you're so delusional to a point where there's no fear anymore. And you're just doing that. And again, that all comes to the tactics that they use, the coercive persuasion tactics, to get you to that stage. When you're there, you're not turning back, for sure.
So with the persuasion, so you've gone and become one of the teachers or the people trying to then recruit and bring new members in. What were some of the persuasion techniques you were taught? And were they subliminal? What's the word?
Subliminal.
Subliminal? Oh, I can't
Subliminal. Brainwashing.
Yeah. Or were they, was there an actual, almost like a script that, like a door-to-door salesman, you have to, say this when they answer that or say this when they answer that. Was there any of that?
You're very accurate. You're on spot. I feel like the best way to sell something is to believe in it. So most of the people who could go and sell the word or evangelize were people who actually believed in it. So if you really believe it, you sit down, you listen, you're like, this makes sense. You have this burning desire. Whoever you meet, you can convince them. But of course, you can't go and say, you really need to join this church. It's so cool. Like this word is like, it'll take you to heaven. You can't do that, right? You need to relax and then learn. We learned how to read people. So reading their body language, right? And then we learned just even when they speak, how to respond to different people. Because again, Melbourne is very multicultural. You've got people from different places. You need to know how to approach each person, right? And then there were so many tactics we learned, like if you can't, because we had to go through this process where you go and evangelize, you meet someone, right? And you kind of like love bomb them. And then you talk about something that they can talk about, right? You create a friendship. When you've created that friendship, you can just exchange contacts. Dude, you're so cool. Like, we should chat some other time. Something simple like that. They'll be like, yeah, cool. And then you quickly set up a meeting with them, first meeting. And you get up to the first meeting, you buy them food, get them a coffee, whatever. And then they're like, wow, they want to kind of, what is it called? Reciprocity?
Yeah.
Yeah. They want to give back because you have done that for them. And then you go to their first meeting, you buy their love again, you talk about certain things. You don't tell them anything about church or whatever. No chance. Some of them need a second meeting. Some of them need a third if you really want to keep, trying to buy their heart. Or you could start talking about religion there and there and then start to introduce someone else who's a mentor so that they could start to listen to the word.
So the people that you target, are you guys told to target certain groups either by ethnicity or by sexes or even by people that may be lonely or people that may be depressed? Or are you told to target certain groups? Or?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We are. And that's one of the big questions people used to ask. They're like, if this is God's kingdom, so why can't we just like bring everyone, you know? Then they're like, no, they obviously create some kind of story as to why. They're like, no, we can't bring people who are, for example, depressed because they are struggling with something.
Okay.
They won't be able to do God's work. So don't bring them. If then you cross out that person. So the people that we had to find, for example, would look for people who are alone.
Yep.
So if someone is alone, you're definitely going to be approached wherever you are in Melbourne. You're going to be approached by someone. They'll just test their luck, and we'll look for people. We look for signs like if someone has a cross, okay, that's someone. If he's, let's say, black, you'd be like, okay, they are. We always used to laugh because we used to say people like black people mostly have a religion, right? Like, oh, they definitely practice some religion. Let's find out what it is. Could be Christianity. Let's see. Let's dig. And one thing we noticed is like a lot of people who are Caucasian, they don't really have that practice in religion, right? They don't really have that strong bond with religion. So they were a bit harder to convince. So we wouldn't go to people. You can't sell to someone who doesn't want to buy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we wouldn't go to people who don't practice religion. Would approach everyone and really try our luck. If you were two, then we wouldn't approach you because it's harder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you guys are working together and then I see you guys, I'm like, wow, that's going to be hard. Unless I want to build a friendship with you guys and then target you. And I would target you through your DMs or something like that. Those are some of the things that we looked for. Dude, I remember the times. I was so good at, you go to Melbourne Central, you look around. There's almost like this aura where you can tell, they are believers.
Fresh meat.
Non-believers. Wow. Like, it was so scary because we did it every day, we became so good at it that you could tell if someone was going to be a believer or not. You got to that point where you could tell if this person is an investment or they aren't, just after the first conversation you had with them. So I remember those days, and it was pretty cool at the same time, but at the same time I would say that it was deception.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is just deception. And one thing about deception is you don't know that you're being deceived. If you're being deceived, you don't know that you're being deceived.
That's true.
That is so true.
I'm thinking of times when I've been almost not indoctrinated, but or manipulated. That's probably not the right word either. But
Yeah.
questioning my faith and religion as from probably being in my 20s all the way up to where I am now. But meeting and finding my I was a Catholic, brought up Catholic.
Yeah.
And always went to mass growing up, and but then getting a bit older and seeing people, Daniel he was Christian, so I went to a Christian church and kind of seeing how they do it, and it's a bit different.
Yeah.
But where was I going to go with my bloody question? Shit. I remember, going to a different church once and them taking me out for a coffee, and I'm just thinking exactly about what you said, and then he talked about introducing someone else into the next meetup, and I remember being a bit sus.
Yeah.
How many times, or what's the limit that you've gone to, where you've felt some resistance with this person, and you've kept pushing and pushing and pushing?
Yeah.
Have you pushed it too far?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the only way to learn. Sometimes you need to really push someone to a point where sometimes you push them and then they then kind of just give up, and then they're like, okay, cool, we'll do this, right? And sometimes you push them, then they just ignore you. That's the worst they can do. They're not gonna.
That's what I did. I stopped replying to messages.
Just stop replying. So it's funny because we did this during COVID. So we did this online. So we used to text almost 200 people every day. Of course, you gotta space them out with Instagram and the algorithms, space them out. So we used to do that every single day and meet people every single day on Zoom. And then we also did it in person, which was you were actually meeting people in person and trying to meet people every single day. So in answering your question, I think, we push people a lot. It's a skill that the best fishermen who were there would know how to read people and say, don't push this person or pass this person to another person, because I guess they're not really connecting with me, but they could connect with this person. And then, they actually do come with another person. So it was kind of a way of working as a team in that sense. Yeah, it was, it was very interesting.
You mentioned the text, messaging. you've obviously been told, hey, you've got a quota you have to meet.
Yeah.
Say if one day you didn't send 200 messages, you sent 20.
Yeah.
Is there any type of punishment or any type of,
you in trouble, man.
Really? Yeah.
You know what's the funny thing is because people will be like, I wouldn't just care if I don't meet the quota and someone yells at me, people wouldn't care. But the reason why this was so strong, like I said, is because of the indoctrination. So the word that's already been taught to you before you even enter into the church, and when you enter into the church, it's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear through the word. So you're kind of like, we're living in the last days, right? We need to work hard. We need to push hard. Sleep is not important, right? We need to meet these targets every day. If you don't meet these targets, God is not going to help us. If God leaves you, you're going to go to hell. If you go to hell, your parents are going to go to hell. Your family is going to go to hell. So there was a lot of fear where most people would do it, even though you thought there is no chance. I remember actually sitting down, and it was almost 12 midnight, right? And this has happened in person and also when I was online. I was sitting down and I was like, I have to have a meeting with someone, right? Because it's like, you need to text this amount of people and you need to get replies. Then you need to meet these amount of people. And then these amount of people have to actually have like a class, like a Bible study. So there were different targets, right? And I remember it was like 30 minutes before 12. And I had texted, I think like 200 and something people, but none of them had replied. And then I was like, wow, this is my fault. I don't have enough faith. Nobody's replying,
Right.
Because you start to blame yourself because they taught you need to blame yourself for everything that hasn't happened. And then I was like, what am I going to do? I texted another 100 people within that 30 minutes. Opened another account, texted more people. Opened another account, texted more people until I got that meeting. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, because I thought at the time, because I just pursued, like, God help me, that I just realized, I was like, oh, that's just me putting in the effort,
Yeah.
The results will come. But if you don't meet the targets, of course they're going to yell at you. They're going to shout. They're going to abuse you. They're going to gaslight you. And what else did they do? There wasn't any physical punishment, but a lot of it was psychological and emotional, which is the scary thing, because if it's physical, like if you do something wrong, you beat someone, then they're going to be like, oh, there's something wrong with this group, right? They're beating us, physically beating us. So it was a lot of emotional and a lot of psychological. And that's how you kind of play tricks on the person, where they still stay, right? And they're questioning themselves. They're still questioning the group, but at the same time, they are thought stopping themselves. It's like, wow, this person is verbally abusing me. Wow, but I need to be verbally abused. This rebuke is love, because they'll use the Bible and say, this is love, right? And then you're like, okay, they're loving me. They're telling me what to do. Oh my goodness, I need to do better tomorrow and things like this. But it wasn't actually right. So it was very interesting to see how the strongest cults are not the ones that kill people, because those ones within 10 years, they're gone, right? They come and then they go. They're not the ones who beat people. They're not the ones who assault people. They're those ones that keep you there. They've got the strategy and techniques. They constantly refine them and keep you there longer. It's almost like they keep you walking around, what that hamster, what's that hamster
The
that's
hamster
in the
wheel.
wheel?
Yeah.
They keep you in the matrix.
Can't get off. Yeah.
I want to go into, you actually mentioned the Matrix, which was part of something I read before. We'll talk about that in a second. But on psychological manipulation, and I think about, Dos mentioned, we growing up in churches, and I know that there was never culty at all, which was great. But when I've heard about cults and listened to them, what I found that was quite interesting is they change parts of, say, the Bible or the religion that makes it more, say, extremist. You talked about saying like end of days or last days or that kind of stuff, which is obviously a tactic of fear. What kind of areas did they really push to attract people, manipulate people, scare people into staying or doing more? Where did they manipulate it?
That's
the
a
religion?
very good question. So it was funny because I was thinking about this and I was like, why are they so good at what they do, right? And then I started to look at most of the scriptures that we reviewed when we were there were parables. So for anyone out there who kind of reads the Bible, it would be in Matthew. So a lot of Matthew chapter 23, 24, a lot of Revelation, which is the last book in the Bible. They would really kind of immerse themselves in that doctrine. Because they're parables, you can explain them however you want,
Yes.
right? So what they did was, when it comes to parables, they would create their own doctrine out of that, which would serve the group. And that's, of course, the leader. It's not the people. The people don't know. All the people, they actually don't know that it's a cult. But it's the leader, and it's that doctrine that's been passed down to everyone, and then everybody is just like, just doing that. You know what I mean? There's no sense of autonomy when you're there, right? You just have to conform. So some of the doctrines that I remember was Revelation, focusing on the last days. So that's how they would push people to do a lot of things that you wouldn't do. Like, for example, just waking up at random times and then having to go to the temple, or having to go evangelize, or having to go and pray, or having to give money for some cause because it's the last days.
So they're convinced the end of the world's coming.
Yeah, you need to move fast. The end of the world is coming.
Wow.
And what's funny is that they do change the doctrine here and there. Like, it's so subtle that you don't really see it. And when someone notices it and then questions, they'll be like, why are you questioning? You don't have no faith. And that person's like, oh, I need to have faith, right? Like, oh my goodness. There's this concept that they use, sealed. When you're sealed, you're someone who has read, understood the Bible. Not really the Bible, that their doctrine.
Yeah.
You've understood it. It's now part of you. So you are sealed, which means that you will never leave. Everybody wanted to get to that stage where they are sealed and they don't leave, because that was something that the currency there is not money. It's the word,
Yes.
right? So if you had the word, wow, people would look at you like, yeah, this guy's cool. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
So everybody always wanted to be sealed. So if you questioned anything, and it was hard to question, like question outwardly, inwardly you could question. It was hard because people be like, he's not sealed. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, he's probably sinning.
I see.
He's probably not doing the right thing. So they push that a lot, where it's the last days, you need to act, you need to do this. They also use some scriptures, like one thing that was so powerful, they kind of painted Jesus as a bad guy, right? So they would say, okay, look at this scripture here. Jesus said you need to deceive people. Like, it's good to deceive, right? It's good to lie. Like, the lie that you're not supposed to do, you're not supposed to add anything or take away from the Bible. But physically lying, deceiving people, as long as they come to God's kingdom, that is totally fine.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it was kind of like, you're there thinking to yourself, lying is not ethically correct. It's not good, right? But I have to do it for the kingdom. And then you get so used to lying. You get so used to having different identities when you're there. You're like a spy, You've got this identity with this person, this identity with this person, this identity with this person, just so that they could like you, because you're sort of like molding an identity that they would be pleased with. You know what I mean? So lying was a big thing. Focusing on Revelation was a big thing. And there are more things that, if I remember, I'll talk about. Most of the Bible was tailored in a way for them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, the most important thing for people in these groups is they all don't know. They're all being deceived. They all have a moment where they'll realize, wow, like, I'm actually in a cult. Because one of the strongest things that they do there is they define things for you. They define things for you, and they withhold information. And again, they use the Bible. Here's another thing where if you know about the Bible, in the beginning, there's the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Right? And then there's Adam and Eve. That's the beginning of the Bible. Like, that part everybody knows. So God is like, eat from the tree of life, don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? And then Adam and Eve, they eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Then they die. So it's like you die.
Okay.
Right? So they started to use that story and say, eating from the tree of life, again, which is a parable, would be listening to the words of Liman He, the leader, would be listening to the words of everybody in Shinchonji. That is listening to the tree of life, because all the words there are of life, because this is God's kingdom. This is the only place that knows the Bible. This is the only place where you can go to heaven, right? And you can't listen to anything else besides this. So I remember sitting there for almost 2.5 years, almost 3 years, and not knowing anything about the world outside, because you're in this group and there's a lot of echo chambers. You only hear the same thing every day, same beliefs, nothing to challenge your beliefs. And that's a very, very strong tactic that they have. And again, it's not ethical, because you cannot choose your own religion. You cannot look for any information. You're just stuck there listening to the same stuff, believing the same stuff. And even if it's a lie, the more you hear it, the more it actually becomes truth, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was it like a normal church? Like you'd go on a weekend and there'd be like a preacher or something like that and speak the word. Is that what it was?
It was like a church on steroids, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
Because we always used to wear white when we would go to church. This was on Sundays and Wednesdays. So you'd actually go, sit down on the floor, cross your legs, right? Everybody sat on the floor.
Wow.
Everybody sat in a line.
So it's literally like you're looking up.
Yeah, you're looking up.
You know, like you're at the bottom looking up. You know?
Looking at the person who's speaking, you're looking up there. And you're all sitting in a line, all wearing white. Like everything is organized. Because they'll tell you, heaven is organized. You cannot be disorganized. Everything is crisp, like crazy. And then you'd go there, sit down. The room is full of people. Just whatever age you are, you're sitting down, crossing your legs. Because this is how people sit in heaven. And then they'll show you scripture taken out of context. And people are like, okay, cool. And then everybody's sitting there. That was a Monday and a Sunday. And on other days, you had education. So education was every day. Every day you go to the temple, which is just like a room, it's like a building, like a warehouse. You go to the temple, you sit down, and then you listen to education, which is more indoctrination. The reason why is because the more you're indoctrinized, the more you make sense of what's happening, the more you stay, right?
Yeah.
If you take a week without education, which is considered a sin, you sort of start to think for yourself again. That critical thinking comes back. That's what I've noticed when I was there. But again, because you've taken time off, they'll tell you that's a sin. You shouldn't. You need to listen to God's word every day. You need to be washed with God's word. You need to be renewed. And then they use scripture again, to talk about these things. So one of the strongest things that they had was they had scripture for everything taken out of context. And when you can't go against scripture, you're just like, well, I can't go against scripture. This is wrong, but I can't do anything about it. I can't explain why it's wrong, but I feel it's wrong. I can sense it's wrong.
So when you hear about cults, and this is a thing, and they often joke about it, but the leader's typically telling everybody how to act and what to do and then doing the exact opposite. Normally it's like in a lot of cults, it's very sexual, like the leader's like banging all the girls, so to say, and that's why they start the cults. What were some of the rules you guys would have had that a normal, say, Christian or any religion church wouldn't have? And also, is there any... within the religion itself, within the cult itself, is there any traces of like, for example, sex or drugs or any of those other kind of...
That's a good question. When you're there, you don't know. You don't really know, right? But when you start to do research, you start to, there are all these things. So, for example, just answering your question with a story, I remember towards the last days when I was just about to leave and I was searching up all these things, I was so shocked because I was like, are you telling me the leader had all these sexual relationships with these women?
Yeah.
But we never knew that because
go.
the man is sinless. He doesn't commit a sin. He only cares about God's work. He works 24/7, right? That's what they tell you when you're there. But when you search up these things, then you find out like there's evidence, there are pictures, of him like doing these things with these ladies. And then you also see him having like they used to say, don't drink when you're there. You shouldn't drink at all, right? But he'll be having alcohol, enjoying himself, cars, houses, things like that. But he would obviously say, this is not his house. It's only a place where he goes to work, to do God's work. You know what I mean? He's never there. But it's his house. he's using your money. And he's buying houses, cars. He's going for these holidays. He's enjoying himself. And he's like about 100, the guy, to be honest.
Really?
He's like very old, yeah.
Gee. So were you guys told, no sex, no alcohol,
no relationships, no alcohol.
Relationships.
No relationships at all.
So even girlfriend, boyfriend?
No, cannot.
What, really? So everybody in that cult is single?
Single. Every single one of them. And to be honest, nobody can try to do it. The way that they got you is they would say, there was this black and white thinking. So as soon as you receive the word, you've learned, yes, the scriptures, you've gone from stage 1, stage 2 to stage 3, you're now in the church, right? You are born of God's seed. Because you're born of God's seed, you've got something special in you, right? And you don't want to lose that. Everybody else who's not in the cult is born of the seed of the devil, right? They're still in darkness. They're still chasing money. They're still chasing this, pleasures of the world. Don't chase that stuff, right? We are God's people. We've got a mission. We're building God's kingdom here on this earth. So people are like, yes, this is good, all right? And then they are asked, okay, you can't have relationships. And they explain why. Then you're like, okay, that makes sense. So you have to break up with your partner if they're not going to come. Yeah.
So you saw people break up with their spouses just for this?
Just for this.
You saw that?
Even family, not just partners, but even family. Like, because they are born of the devil's seed, like you have to limit your interaction with them. You can't spend your time with family. You can't spend your time with your kids. Because again, they're tainted of the devil's seed. And that's how you see families there, they break down. You see, the father and the mother, they separate.
It's so weird because family is such a big aspect of Christianity or
Church.
Catholicism. How do you say that word?
Catholicism.
There you go. Yeah, it's one each today.
Yeah.
But that's such a big part of it's all family. It's family. It's, which is interesting.
But you're now part of a new family.
Yeah, okay.
And this family is an eternal family. This is actually God's true family. So they'll tell you, like, this is way stronger than your normal family that you're born with. And you'll be like, it makes sense, because they'll use examples in the Bible and they'll say, look at Jesus again. Like, because of course people really idolize and they believe in Jesus' words.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole New Testament of the Bible. They're like, look at Jesus. He said to his disciple, like, don't go and bury your father. Let the dead go bury their dead. So even if someone's parent or if someone's partner passes away, they're not going to go. They're going to stay and do the mission. Like literally, birthdays, forget that. Holidays, forget that. They're just focused on the mission. And that's how in Korea, it happens a lot where people are literally going to the church and the temple and they're like, bring back my kid, bring back my son, bring back my daughter, bring back my husband, bring back my wife.
Oh,
Outside. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. But what's funny is they're smart. They'll tell us this when we're on the inside. Then they'll twist the story. Then they'll be like, you see what's happening now? This is the devil. He's trying to destroy God's kingdom, right? We need to push harder. We need to. Then they'll start to change their rules. Meet your family at least once a week, just once a week, just so that they're happy, and then come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So, were you single when you came to Australia?
I was single when I came to Australia.
So for you, you were like you were the perfect person for it. You came in, you had no family here. You're trying to make a new friendship group.
Yeah.
And
I think for me, I was the easiest. I was the easiest because
I'm perfect avatar.
I'm usually a person who, everyone else, because people who fall into cults, usually there's this point in time in their life where something situational has happened, right? Like you've moved to a different country, town, you have had a breakup, you've lost your job, something happened, and then it's easier for someone else to come in, and become your friend, and then introduce you to something else. But usually if you're fine, you got a job, everything is good, you've got food, you're happy, you're comfortable, then that's most likely not going to happen. So a lot of people think, people in cults, they're like not smart or they're dumb. That's why they fall into these groups. But I've seen the smartest people in cults and even coming out of cults and doing great things in the world. There are a lot of people who have, I don't know if you know Stephen Hassan. He was in the Moonies. He was in a cult, but he's one of the leading cult experts now coming out of that. And he's very extremely smart, man. He was there for almost 10 to 20 years, something like that.
It's an interesting analogy because not an analogy, but I think the same thing. From the outside, you think, I always go, how? But then hearing, it makes total sense. When I was reading your story, this fascinated me too, is watching movies like The Matrix and The Truman Show. Why do they make you watch those kind of movies? Are they trying to suggest, do they dabble in like the conspiracy world? Are they saying that everything that we see isn't really the truth? How does that all play a part? Why do they show you those kind of movies? What do they say about them?
That's so true. So we were there's this thing called Center. Center is where you learn the Bible, and there are about 100 people. So there are a lot of people, right? So you have come from a small group where it was just the three of us studying together, right?
Okay.
Maybe I was the teacher, and you are part of the group, and you brought him, right? And then now he's learning for the first time, right? We're learning, and then we move to Center. So when you move to Center, again, there's also like a chronological order in which the teachings are put. Like all the instructors teach the exact same way, use the exact same phrases, exact same examples, exact same jokes, because there's a reason why they're doing that, right? And when you're there, you get to a point in time, there's where just before they reveal the leader to you, right? They're trying to help you understand. They're trying to help you to they confuse you by making you discern the world differently, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I know they do this a lot. This whole Matrix thing is so big nowadays.
Yeah.
But you're now starting to think to yourself, wow, I've been living in a false reality.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Because they're trying to teach you through that movie. And you're like, yeah, it seemed like it was real, but it's actually not the real world that I'm meant to be living in. And so I have to leave, I have to break out. And then they use that movie to explain why you have to move from this world to this world, from this mission to this mission, from this life to this life, right? You're awakening now. And then you're like, that makes so much sense. And it's a really good movie to use in that context because it kind of consolidates what they're trying to teach at that point in time. And yeah, then people just get super confused. Especially when you come out of it, then you're like, oh, okay, so what was that about?
Yeah.
Then you start to see all the systems in the world, and you start to see this whole matrix thing replaying in each system.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? So
It's a powerful, like you said, it's a powerful movie, but it's so now, it's just ingrained in culture, the Matrix. Like we all talk about it. It's...
the Truman Show was one thing that made me laugh because they played...
We had to study it at school.
Oh, that movie freaked
really?
me out.
Yeah.
I actually haven't studied it to that extent, so...
This was for English though. This wasn't for, this was a bit different. This was,
Wasn't at church.
Yeah.
Does everybody have to like study that in school?
Oh, just at our school.
Every school obviously has their different like books or movies that they have to study. But yeah, the Truman, we had to write an essay on the Truman Show.
Yeah.
What did you think about it?
Well, it's been a long time since I saw it.
I remember I remember after watching it, and I've only seen it the one time. I've never seen it again since because it kind of spooked me a little bit. But I was like, imagine if that was, is that actually real? Are we being watched? Like,
Yeah.
you know, but I haven't thought about it any further.
It was funny because when they showed that, I was like, dude, I literally feel like I'm being watched here.
Ah, okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I felt like I was being watched here. And I don't know if other people felt the same way, but I was like, dude, I literally feel like everything is organized and I am being watched. I thought everybody was there and I was the only person who had been kind of like recruited in a way. And then I felt special, but at the same time, I was so scared. I was like, this is crazy. And sometimes when you feel like that, you just shouldn't ignore it, you know? You shouldn't ignore it. But because you thought stop yourself and you're like, then you're like, I'm not that special. Why am I thinking I'm special? Why am I thinking this thing has been created just for me? You know what I mean? So because in that center, you've got 100 people, as an example. 50 of them are members of the group and 50 of them are new recruits. So what usually happened, they've got this thing where it's like, they call it a leaf and a fruit. So if you're a leaf, you're a person in the group. And then if you're a fruit, you're the person who was brought for the first time to study, right? So it's like, I've brought my fruit, they're studying for the first time, but my fruit thinks we're both studying for the first time. They don't know that I'm in the group, so I'm deceiving them.
Oh,
So we're both studying, right?
It just doesn't stop the deceiving.
Yeah. So that's exactly where this coercive persuasion comes, because there's this social pressure where everybody there, most people there are agreeing. They're like, that is so true. Okay. And then the other people who are having doubts, they're kind of just like looking at my friend and they're like, oh, okay. So maybe I'm just overthinking it. You know what I mean? Like, it's true, you know? And what that does is, because we are acting, the people who are there are acting as spies for the people who are coming. So everything that they tell us, we use that against them. So they tell us something, we tell the teacher, then the teacher next time when they come, they're like, you're not that special, you know? Nobody here is special. You're all coming to learn God's word. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I was thinking I was special. I was like, I told that to my friend. How is she mentioning it?
Right.
You know, and then you can't really make the link. You're just like, you feel like it's again, mystical manipulation. You feel like it's just God who's revealing this message through the Spirit or something, you know? Because you've told them and then they address it in that way. And most people are feeling the same way, you know? So they are always reporting on us. Reporting is a big thing when you're there, man. Like, you're never safe. You're going to be reported for everything you do. How long are you eating for? 10 minutes? That's too long. I'm going to report you. You need to eat for 5 minutes and then you need to get back to the mission. So, yeah, answering that question, it's kind of like there was, what was the question? Was in terms of the...
Well,
yeah,
no,
We're talking about the Truman Show.
It makes sense what you're saying. It's like everything is used against you. Everything is made to fit. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually crazy.
Before we probably get into the realization and you making the decision to, okay, I'm going to leave. What was the craziest thing? Like if you look back now and you go, I can't believe I witnessed that or saw that or they made me do that.
Yeah.
Do you have like just a story that will just blow our minds?
There was Dude, there's so many stories here. But there was a time where I had a friend who was studying the word, right? And I was already in the group. He was studying the word through someone else. And so he wasn't directly the person I had brought. He was brought by someone else. But they knew that he was my friend. But he was having doubts about what was being taught. And he had also read something online. So he was considered poisoned. Poison is like, oh my goodness, like this person is literally going to fall away. They're going to leave because they now know the truth. But they would say that this person has been deceived by the devil because they've read the truth online, right? So he had read that stuff. And then they approached me. They said, can you talk to your friend? I was like, yeah, I'm happy to. What do you want me to say? They're like, well, you need to help him to stay. I was like, okay, how do I do that? He's had poison. Like, I thought you can't help someone who's had poison. Well, we should try. I was like, okay, cool. How do we try? I think you should make up a story. I was like, what do you mean? Like, you should act like you had a dream. And then in that dream, his family were like dying because, you know, he had left this place. And this is happening in his life. He lost his job, you know, just to instill fear in him. Then I was like, that is smart. At the time, At the time, I was like, that is smart. But I was like, dude, I'm not good at lying. And I'm like, I have to lie to my friend. And then I'm like, I have to make this sound true. Dude, I remember getting on the phone call with him, and he was telling me the story again. And I was trying to like convince him, like, you know, these are all lies. You know, I've read the same thing, even though I've never read it. I've read the same thing, and they're just lying, man. So, and then I started telling him the dream that I had. I think when he heard my story, he was like, this guy's crazy, you know, for telling me a story like this. And I was telling him, dude, I had a dream, and then your parents and your sister, you know, because you left, because God gave you a chance, you know, to save them, but you're losing this chance and stuff like that. And I started like full on crying, like trying to make him believe, you know, in the story. I was like, dude, like that literally traumatized me. I'm just telling you because I think God is telling me to tell you. And I was lying to him. And I was like, when I finished on that call, I was like, dude, like what the hell did I just do? You know, what the hell did I just do? But he still left. He was like, no way, I'm leaving. And that was a smart move. I was like, just realizing now, I'm like, that was a smart move.
I'm glad he's out. Like if you were out, but he was still in, that would be that'd be tough. Do you just sitting here? We will talk about you getting out of it, but just sitting here talking so openly, do you have any fear about somebody hearing this?
Not at all, to be honest. Because people in the group, they're not even going to see this.
Yeah.
Like 99.9% of them will not see it. The one who does see it, they'll just be like, oh, he's saying a lot of bad things about us.
They'll just say
They'll say, oh, yeah, exactly what we told you. People who leave, they say bad things about us.
So they say it's poison.
Yeah, they'll say it's poison. Don't watch that stuff.
Yeah, okay,
and
cool.
it's fine because...
Don't worry, we get told that our show's poison and don't watch our show all the time. So
Did you get that a lot?
Yeah, we got a ripper last week.
Yeah. What was that one? I don't know.
If you want to lose 2 brain cells, listen to these 2 idiots or something.
Yeah,
quite a few people liked the comment, which was bitterly disappointing.
Yeah, it's a bit worrying. So as to
no publicity is bad publicity.
That's it. We've learned that the hard way. So to Dos's point, when's the moment you realise, and how do you get out?
Okay, this is a good one. Everybody from the beginning has got that in their mind. They've got this thought process of, I think I'm in something that I'm not supposed to be in, right? Like everyone, even people who are there today, they're still like, wow, this place is still kind of different, you know? Like it's weird. Like I cannot explain it. But because you've already been taught to stop yourself, I shouldn't be thinking that. Oh, I shouldn't be feeling that way. So you're obviously not gonna, I guess, reflect upon that thought. You're not gonna think about it critically. So from the beginning, I obviously had that within me. And I remember even though I spent these 3 years and I was working really hard and I was climbing up the ladder, you know, I was becoming a teacher and I was learning all these cool things. I remember even just like saying to myself, like, dude, I don't want to lose myself, who I truly am. Because when you're there, you lose yourself. And I did lose like a lot of things about myself, which I cannot regain. And that's fine because I gained a lot. Like, I feel like now I'm a bit more aware and open, which was something good I got out of it. But I remember saying to myself, I don't want to lose myself. I didn't want to lose the healthy part of me where I exercise, I train, you know, these things help me stay sane. I didn't want to lose that. And I still held on to that. Everybody just let go. Like, they say let go, like just flow with the water. And again, they use a biblical example for this, but I didn't want to do that. I still worked hard, but I still didn't want to let go of everything. So I still had that 10% in me where I didn't want to let go. And I was so happy that I didn't. For example, when I was there, despite sleeping 4 hours, I still trained.
Yeah.
Like 1 hour train, sleep 3 hours. Okay, cool, let's go again. Because I still had that part about me, even though I lost everything else, like football, I didn't play anymore and stuff like that. What was your question?
About when you realised and when you got out.
Yeah,
When I
realisation.
realized. Yes. So I had a very interesting conversation with this gentleman. I was evangelizing outside, right? And I was at Essendon, DFO. I met this gentleman from another cultish group, right? And I'd already known their cultish group because in my group, that's what they told us. Like, oh, that's another cultish group. And I was like, cool, yeah. I don't know if I can say the name, but I met that gentleman. And then I was like, oh, this guy, look at him trying to evangelize. Like, I can do that better, because we've got this like pride about who we are. Like, oh, we are the people of God. And I went, and then I was like,
I'm a better manipulator than you.
I'm
man.
a better
Yeah.
manipulator than you, bro. I'm like, we are going to heaven. I don't know what you guys are doing. So I went there, and then he was giving out pamphlets. I was like, what is this? He's like, oh, do you know God is a mother? I was like, God is a mother? He's like, yeah. I was like, explain to me. He started explaining, right? And one thing in a cult, you don't reveal who you are. You don't reveal what church you're part of. You don't reveal the leader. But both of us, when we had that conversation, we started getting deep into it. We were like having a conversation, having an argument. Who's better? Like, who knows more? And he's like about 50. He was about 50 years at that time. And I was like, what, 19, 20? And then I reviewed who I was, like which group I was part of. And then he also reviewed. And then I reviewed the leader. And then he also reviewed. He's like, oh, that's a cult. I was like, no, yours is a cult. Yours is a cult. And then at that point in time, I was like, what if we're both wrong?
Yeah.
I was like, why is it that I believe in what I believe in so strongly, and there's someone else who also believes in what he believes in so strongly? They're willing to put their life for it. They're willing to give away everything. I was like, I'm sure there are many groups in the world that think the same. And then that critical thinking for me helped me go back home. I sat down, and I was in my room for about like a week, man. I was in my room for about a week, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do a bit of searching. I started searching about different groups, and I was like, wow, this one looks similar to ours. I was like, wow, okay, cool. And I was just searching different groups, and I started to realize how cults work. But I hadn't searched my group at that point in time, right? Because you can't search about the group. That's the worst sin you could do. Eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you will die. I was like, I'm not ready to die, man. I'm not ready to die. I was like, I'll just kind of like put my toe, Let me just taste that. Oh. So that's what I was doing at the time, just understanding cults. And I was like, dude, they always tell us a cult is like a group that says one thing and does another thing. I was like, that's not the definition of a cult. And now I clearly know what the definition of a cult is and how you can discern if something is a cult. And at that point in time, I was like, I feel like these guys are lying to us. So I stayed there for that whole week. Dude, I was literally sitting down for a whole week. And I was crazy. I was just like searching. Then I started searching about the group. Then I was like, wow, this is crazy. I think I am in a cult. Like, I was shattered. Like, when you truly believe in something so much, so much, and then you're like, it's a lie. This is not reality. It's a lie. So after that week, when I was kind of having that realization, I was like, I can either go and talk to the leader, but I know how they operate, right? They're going to gaslight me. They're going to lie to me. They're going to tell me, why did I do it? They're going to tell other members, this one is poison, don't talk to him, shun him away, things like this. I'd already seen it. We'd already seen it so many times. So I was like, I don't want to tell them. I need to just figure this out and then hopefully leave if that's the right thing to do, right? And I even to now when I was thinking about it and I was sitting in my room, I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to the leader. When I talked to the leader, they did exactly as I thought. Yep. Cool. Then I was like, I need time to think. So I left the house that I was in because I was living with other people who were also part of the group. So I was like, I need more time to think. I went to the city, and I remember just walking around the city for about like 3 days. Just walking around, like literally day and night, just thinking. And I would stop at McDonald's, and I'd be like, yeah, let me just eat some Maccas.
Yeah.
And then I would sleep at McDonald's. I was like, I can't keep sleeping at McDonald's. I'm losing time, People are asking, where am I? Why am I not doing my task? And things like this. got a hotel, and then I stayed there for another, I think about 2 days. I was still thinking, I still couldn't find the answer. I was like, I don't know how this is wrong. I know ethically it's wrong. I know psychologically it's wrong what they're doing. I didn't know how biblically it was wrong because I had been indoctrinized.
Yeah.
I believed that part, but I needed to find out how it's wrong. So after leaving that, went back home, packed my things in the middle of the night. Like nobody knew I was leaving. I packed my stuff. Did I have a car? No, I didn't have a car. Packed my stuff, and I took my stuff like some trips to another house because I'd already planned, got another house, and then I took my things there. Nobody knew at all because, of course, they were focused on doing their task. They didn't see what I was doing, right? And how things were, I didn't have a lot of things, but how my room was becoming empty slowly over time. And then I moved completely to the other house. Then I was like, okay, I was still going to the church, but this is the time that I actually have to leave now, like completely cut contact. Nobody knew I had moved. So I was like, perfect. So then that's when I was like, I'm just going to stay in this house. I'm not going to go and then keep searching more stuff. And that's what I did. Kept searching more stuff. And then I started to find out, yep, it is actually a cult. But I felt like leaving the cult was the easiest thing compared to getting the cult to leave you. That's harder.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking when you're talking, they would want, at that point, they probably actually want you out because if you start talking to everybody else, you're risking them leaving too.
Poisoning everyone.
Yeah.
Like
So-
as they call it.
Yeah, because I knew I shouldn't talk to anyone. I was like, because I don't want to do that. That's even worse. Because again, they had another biblical reference to say that's worse. Okay, you're definitely going to go to hell. You're not going to get any forgiveness. So I never told anyone that I was leaving or I had these doubts. I never. That was the best thing for me to do. Otherwise, they would have kept me there.
Gotcha.
You know? So that's why leaving silently was the best thing that I could have done. And I left silently, quietly. Nobody knew. Even though they texted me, I didn't text back.
Yep.
You know? Moved to Brisbane, lived there. And then I was like, okay, cool. Now I've realized that it's actually a cult. And then that's when the work starts, like doing the work, internal work, after you leave.
Of course.
That's when you actually need to do the internal work. And if you can get through that phase, you're going to become so much stronger as a person.
How hard was that? You talk about doing the work. A lot of self-reflection, I'm sure, and a lot of doubts going through your mind about just your faith in general overall.
Yeah.
Well, like what was that kind of, was it pretty dark?
It was, man. It's like you don't know who you are anymore because you don't have an identity. You're the identity, the cult identity. You lost your old identity, right? You don't have any beliefs anymore. You don't know who to trust. You don't have friends anymore because they were your friends. They were your family. So you got no one, you know. You've shunned your family, like your real family. And so you're just like, okay. Now I feel like I'm like naked. I'm like a baby. I'm starting again to build from nothing. You know what I mean? And everybody who comes out goes through that phase. So, yeah, I had literally nothing. So I told myself, well, instead of feeling sorry for myself, because for like about 2 weeks, I felt sorry for myself. And I was like, dude, I'm going to go to hell. I don't even know if this is right, you know, what I'm doing. Even though I'd left, I was like still questioning myself. And I was just like in bed. And then I was like, well, let me watch some Sidemen or something to make me laugh. Let me distract myself. And it still wasn't helping because at that point in time, I started to develop an eating disorder because I was just like eating and I was just like sad and I was depressed. And then I was like, dude, I can't keep doing this. Like, life has to move on and I need to move on. Otherwise, you know, this is the destruction of me. And everything that they said about people who leave, to say that they go mad, they're not going to be successful in life. It will happen because you start to believe it, right? What you believe is how reality is going to portray itself to you. And I'm big on that so much. So I was like, well, I can see that their tactics are trying to destroy me even after I leave. I was like, I'm not going to let them. And then that's when I started to do the work one bit at a time, saying to myself, let's explore things that we liked before again. Let's see. Didn't have the love for it. I was like, cool, let's try something else. Tried a bit of something else. And then from there, started building bit by bit. Just being honest with people, like having normal conversations with people, not sounding like the cult self, you know, not trying to manipulate people. That was work. And
what time frame, how long ago did you get out?
this was 2022, end of 2020, like September
Gotcha.
2022. So It was 3 years. I was in there for 3 years. Man, 3 years felt like 10 years.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Like
How are you now with, do you have a faith now, or are you religious at all? Or where are you now?
That's a very good question, because when I was in the crowd, I remember teaching this to my students. I was like, I believe in this so much that if somehow I was to leave, there's no way I would ever go, and there's no God I'll ever believe in.
Yeah.
I said that because I believe in it so much, and everybody there does, right? But when I came out, I was like, I don't believe in God. I was like, no, I don't believe in God. Like there's no other place like this, because there has to be a true church, right? That's what we're taught. Then I was like, well, that thinking is flawed. I realized it's flawed. There isn't any true church. There's no right way to do life. And so I went through these different phases of, I believe, I don't believe, I believe, no, I don't believe, no, I believe. Okay, let's try. So that's when I started to study like Islam, looked into like New Age religion, spirituality. I started looking at like a lot of different Stoicism, just trying to understand this whole thing about a higher power, about God and things like that. Only to realize like we don't know as much as, we will never know everything in this lifetime. So it's like you got to just choose what you want to believe in, and that's totally fine. You don't have to disrespect other people for believing what they believe in, because nobody actually truly knows. And this is what I believe, right? Like nobody actually truly knows despite what they believe in. So now I could say I'm at a stage where I'm like, okay, I'm reconnecting again with my Christian faith, which is good. Not to say I know everything about it. I don't. I think it's probably the most familiar route I can take.
Sure.
And I still do feel like that connection with God. At the same time, it's like I'm also thinking, is that connection just a feeling, or is it like true?
It sucks that for you though. It sucks that now, because of what you went through, you're always going to have that in the back of your mind, that taint, like
Yeah, the doubt.
the doubt. Yeah,
The doubt. Yeah. It's
I mean, I
always
think
there.
everybody has it anyway. Anybody that's religious or considers religion in any type of them, there's always that little bit of doubt. But
Yeah.
in your case, now it's incredibly difficult.
Well, I think it's like it's doubt, but it's also a matter of trust. Who do you trust?
That's a very good question.
Because I've trusted these people, so not just the people within it, but the higher power of whatever it was, and it's actually I've worked out that it's the devil essentially trying to control me.
Yeah.
How the hell are you supposed to trust, even now going to a simple Christian church down the road?
Yeah.
How can you trust that?
Yeah.
Even just people you meet,
Even
connections
people
you
you
meet.
People. Yeah.
It takes it. I guess it really takes a lot of work, and it takes you doing it over and over again, and it takes you actually meeting good people, because I realized that they are actually really good people. I think what it just did is it gave me almost like some superpowers where I'm very hyper aware of things. Like I'm very sensitive. I can pick up on things that people don't really pick up on. And I've realized that doesn't have to go against me. It goes in my favor. Where I'm like, I picked up that thing. It doesn't mean that person is bad. Maybe they're just nervous, Or it doesn't mean that person is trying to do any harm. Maybe they're just, they're not really aware of what they're doing.
Yes.
So it's given me that ability to connect with people more, like now, because I've been on the other side.
Yes.
There's no light without darkness, and vice versa. So I'm actually like loving it. Like having gone through that for me has been so empowering, like super, super empowering. There's so many lessons I've learned from there within just those 3 years. I felt like it's been 10 years. Yeah.
I love it's an unbelievable story, OT. We're gonna start with we've got a couple of segments really quickly. Has the leader ever got in trouble?
Oh, so many times.
You mentioned prison before.
Yeah, so in and out. He's in and out of jail a lot.
Yeah, in and out a lot.
So so people wherever. And the only other really brief question I had for it, in a lot of cults you hear about like a mass suicide at the end when the leader was there ever talks about like an actual end of the world date?
Yes, that's so true. That's a good question, because what's funny is being a really good cult leader, you shouldn't give dates when something will end, because no matter how much faith you think you have, it's not going to end
no
there.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one thing I've learned from a lot of these cults who do give dates. Then people are not going to believe when that day comes, and then nothing happens. And then they have to make something happen. They have to kill people. They have to be like, guys, we need to drink this potion, and this is how this day reviews itself. For him, he did make those claims before, but all the books he made the claims in, he disregarded them. He put them to the side. People never knew about them. And then he started to blame another guy. He said, this guy wasn't listening to what I was writing. He wrote different stuff. You know what I mean? He shifted the blame on him. He was the scapegoat. But he was the one who was saying, you know, the world will end on this date.
Was that was that when you were in the cult?
That was actually way before I was in the cult.
Okay,
Because it started in 1984. So that was like in the 1990s where he did say that.
Geez, old mate's been going a long time.
Yeah. But he learned, like, he's so smart. He adapts. He learns every time. And he learned not to do that. Because that's when people will be like, oh, he's lying. But I guess that's one of the things where people are realizing now that there is that information where he's lied before. And he keeps lying and changing the doctrine now. I know.
Let's all take a breath.
Yeah. now we're
Now
gonna,
it's for some fun.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun, OT.
So I think we jump into Tour Edge.
Tour Edge first?
Why not
All
Tour
right.
Edge?
Bryce, so we're going to just, while Bryce brings over the Tour Edge, beautiful
The 725 series.
725 series. We're actually on skeleton staff, aren't we, at Dawson?
We
at the moment?
are.
So
Well,
Bryce
it technically still is
holiday
the
time.
holiday period.
So Bryce is doing a bit of everything today. But OT, do you play golf?
I don't play golf.
Okay, well, you might after today because we've got some little gifts for you a little bit later on. But sitting to your right is the Tour Edge 725 series, DOS.
You know what I think of when I look at those?
What?
Look, I think of distance,
Yep.
precision.
So if you've never played golf before, OT, you have a whack with those clubs, and I reckon that despite you may not have a lot of experience, you may be able to hit it like better than the average person would, wouldn't you, with those clubs?
Or let's just say we're playing better, or looking like we're playing better purely because we're playing with these.
They're beautiful clubs.
Tiger
And,
Woods.
Now, we do encourage all the viewers and listeners, head over to Tour Edge AU on Instagram, follow them because there are always giveaways, competitions, really good goodies you can win. Now, what are we doing today for this segment?
Well, typically this segment is our show and tell segment, where the guest brings in something to show and tell. But OT, you had something that you were going to bring in.
I was.
And unfortunately it's not with you, but we're still going to go with that and the story behind that.
So I was actually going to bring a very ancient Bible that my mom gave me. So it was going to be in fitting with the episode. I was going to bring that and show you guys. So she gave that to me when I was like 8 years. And I never read it until I came here. And then I started reading it, of course, when I was in the cult. It's one thing that's very special to me because for her, religion is very big. It's like her number one thing. You know, she's been a pastor, an elder, and all these things. So, yeah, it's a very, very ancient book. It's a very, very old book. And there's only about 2 of them in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't know who gave it to her.
Is it in English?
It's in English,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
It's in English. So, yeah, she gave that to me, and until today, I still don't read it.
How did she feel when you told her your story, what you've been through?
Oh, man, she understood.
Yeah.
Because my mom has studied psychology and sociology.
Okay.
So she understood. Whilst my dad was like, you're stupid.
yeah.
That's
What are you doing, boy?
He's like, what are you doing? My mom was like, no, these things happen. These things, and she's trying to
that's nice.
she's trying to like educate him and stuff. It's funny because I actually had so many conversations with her early in the morning. We're just walking, just exercising together, and then she's just trying to guide me, you know, throughout this whole process, telling me like, you know, it's not always gonna be like this. Just think forward, learn something from it. Like these things, like if someone tells you, for example. And this is one thing she told me at the beginning, which was always in my heart. It was a seed she planted. If someone tells you that they've got the whole truth and they understand everything, then it's probably a cult, you know. They're probably lying. So that seed in my heart came out towards the end. And then as I was able to kind of like realize and leave the group.
What's your mum's name?
My mom, Dorcas.
Dorcas?
Yeah, Dorcas.
Well, that's a good shout out, but that's a beautiful story. Appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you so much, guys.
So for now, we've got to do the Bryce. I'm sorry, we don't have the boys here today, so you're gonna have to do a little switcheroo. We might.
Well, now it's the Bayford Ford mystery box.
Yeah, but we got to have
I
to.
think we'll take the Tour Edge out first, and before we do that.
So what we're going to do while Bryce is taking that away is that's a Bayford Ford mystery box OT. So in there is a bunch of questions or challenges. All you have to do is pull one out, and this is where we have a little bit of fun. And once you answer that question or challenge, we have a prize for you. But Dos, what about Bayford Ford? Because they've been great to us.
I will say this one thing is we recently just got back from a little getaway, a little one-nighter. We went down to Anglesea. Have you been down the Great Ocean Road before?
You know, it's the funny thing. Everybody's like, dude, you need to go. I haven't.
Mate, you need to go.
I haven't.
And we were very, very lucky. Bayford Ford actually gave us the F-150 truck.
It's huge.
We got to loan the car for a night, so we went down the Great Ocean Road and we had a good time. It was really, really good. And Bayford Ford, they're just they're all awesome people.
But what they did say to us, because we understand not everybody's in the market for a brand new car, but what they do have is they have unbelievable service, car washing service. So if you want to go get your car serviced, it's that time of year where people put that sort of thing off. Head to Bayford Ford and just drop the name dos&d, 10% off your next service at Bayford Ford.
Or I think they do car wash there too.
They do,
So,
yeah.
they've got everything. But OT, put your hand in there. There's a bunch
Should I
of...
look? Oh, I can't
Yeah,
look.
go for
Yeah,
it.
go for it.
No, don't look. Just pick one of them out.
There's no spiders. There's nothing in there.
Oh, true. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like this one is.
That's the one?
You've got a good feeling?
All right.
All right.
Wow. Okay. Two truths.
Oh, I knew it was going to be this. I just had a
and
feeling.
one
I'm like,
lie. Two truths.
we've had that heaps.
Go.
Two truths and a
Well,
lie.
we'll go with it again. So 2 truths and a lie, and we'll steer. Maybe this is good because we haven't actually talked about your life
as a
outside of the
person.
cult. So this is a good way you can. So throw 3 statements at us,
Okay.
and we'll see what you really did learn in that cult.
And we have to guess the we have to guess the lie.
We have to guess the
And
lie.
you have to guess the lie. Okay.
What are 3 things about yourself?
Okay. So
You should be able to
I don't
lie
want,
very well to us.
I don't. I
He
know I
doesn't want
should.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm now terrible at lying. I have played for 2 national teams growing up
Okay.
In soccer?
in soccer. I've played for 2 national teams growing up in soccer. I have a... Oh. At one point in my life, I've had 12 dogs.
12 dogs.
Yeah. And the last one would
Here
be...
comes the lie.
You think so?
No, I don't know. No.
And the last one would be... What's another truth I can think about?
Oh,
he's
is he-
trying
is
to. Yeah. Credit to you.
Okay. I have an anime tattoo on my back.
Anime tattoo.
Anime tattoo on
Anime
your
tattoo
back.
on my back.
I actually did have a look at your arms for tattoos earlier, so I noticed there was no tattoos.
I'm assuming tattoos were very much against the cult.
No, you could actually have tattoos. They said that didn't matter.
Really?
It's
So-
so funny, isn't it?
So he said to us off air that. So you grew up. Wait. So you were in Zimbabwe, and where was the other country you lived in?
Botswana.
Yeah, so
Botswana.
I'm thinking of did he play for those 2?
Did he play for 2, or did he play for 1? And that's a lie.
That's a good point.
12 is also a specific number for dogs.
And playing for 2 national teams as a junior that's quite
It's
the feat.
insane.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to see his football skills yet. What do you think? Where are you leaning towards, Dos?
I think he's had 12 dogs over his life.
Yeah, I think that's the truth.
And I think he has the tattoo.
So you are up. Let's go with that.
Let's
lock
go.
it in.
The soccer. Oh, now I'm doubting myself because
Lock it in. Lock it in. Lock it in.
let's go lock in that A.
Okay. So you're saying that I have a tattoo on my back and
And you had 12 dogs.
and I've had 12 dogs. Do you want to know which one is the lie?
Yes, please.
It's the tattoo.
Oh,
He was so.
I knew it too. I
That
said,
was-
oh, here comes the lie.
He played it off so well.
Wow, that's amazing. You played for 2 countries
did, yeah.
internationally.
What position?
As a striker when I was in Botswana,
Okay.
and then as a midfielder and a winger when I was in Zimbabwe.
Nice.
I'm from Zimbabwe.
We need to go have a kick of the
Yeah.
the football
we
show.
should.
That's
Do you play FIFA?
I do play FIFA.
Oh, perfect.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his cult.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, seriously, I'm obsessed. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Do you use the same team or do you use different teams?
No, I changed it up. And I don't know why. Even I've got the new FC 25. I haven't told you this, but I used to always just love playing manager mode, whereas I'm actually enjoying just playing kickoff. Just
That's
Just
bizarre.
playing
by
by
myself.
yourself.
That's weird.
I know, that is a bit odd,
That's
isn't it?
weird. That is odd.
I think I'm just enjoying playing with a few teams.
Oh well, that's when you get the new game.
yeah, I'm playing
so
with a
you-
few different teams.
Oh, I
and
reckon that'll.
I'm
work.
semi-pro.
I'm legendary.
Oh my
Oh.
goodness! Okay.
Yeah,
And
I'm top tier.
He's better
Did-
than me.
Do you know how you know someone is good when they use different teams, and then when
Yeah.
they play on legendary?
Well, we were housemates for a long time, and we played a lot of FIFA, and yeah, we used to alternate the teams quite a bit, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Now we did say OT. We got some presents for you, so let's bring out the milkman to begin with. So
Oh, the milkman.
now the milkman's been for Othniel. He's been incredibly generous because I had a
Really?
little look in his pack. We don't have the normal fragrance pack
What's
today.
in there? I haven't had a chance to have a look at the
It's
milkman.
actually quite heavy today. The milkman. We need to
really?
say big shout out to milkman. This is all things male grooming, so that he's going to look after you. You got some shower gels, Actually, have a look inside there.
Wow.
Wait, have a look and tell us what's in there because there's a few. You've got a few items.
Oh,
Dude, that's crazy.
packed to the rafters.
Yeah. So what's in there?
Oh my goodness. Look at that.
What is it? Some
Actually,
type of moisturizer?
That
I think is that a cologne?
That's
That
a
No, no, no.
clay
It's a moisturizer.
pomade.
one? Okay.
Oh, wow. that smells heavenly.
Yeah.
Talking about CULTS. Oh,
So what is it? What does it say on the front? It's,
so this one is actually clay. It's pomade. It's a scented cologne.
There you go. Yeah, it's a scented cologne.
Wow.
so you rub it on your
So you got a couple clones. I think you got a body wash in there as well.
And this one it's a water soluble scented cologne.
Told you, there's 2 colognes,
Wow.
and you got a couple bottles in there.
Look at that.
Oh, that looks...
There you go.
Actually looks kind of yummy.
They've really looked after you, and we do need to say
Dude.
milkmanaustralia.com is where you go for all your male grooming
Did I
needs.
get a...
Yeah, use dos&d for 20% off your
Yeah.
first order at Milkman
I thought they
Australia
got a
as
little
well.
discount if
They
you listen to
do.
dos&d.
And then what have you got there?
Is that a body gel?
This
or
is
something?
a clear shave gel.
There you
Oh,
go.
it's a shave gel.
That is unreal. The packaging is
Oh
immaculate.
wow, that's lovely.
And then that's body wash.
They've been very generous, Milkman. We caught up with them.
Milkman, I wouldn't mind a bit of body wash myself. I'll have to buy some.
Yeah, use the code, Dad.
Yeah, I will, I will.
And then bring over the dos&d goodie bag, please, Bryce, as well.
Oh wow, there's more.
Oh, there's more. There's always more.
There's plenty.
So Tour Edge is looking after you. They're looking after you with a golf hat, a golf
That
glove.
is so cool.
Bayford Ford are sending you home with a drink bottle.
Why don't you put your hands in there?
Yeah,
and-
Yeah, I
there's a
actually wanna
couple
put my hands
protein
in.
bars courtesy of Musashi.
Look at that.
Fleet Plant Hire. They're
Yes.
sending you home with some golf balls,
Golf
some golf
accessories.
tees, golf towel, golf gloves.
Am I taking the clubs?
Not
We
quite.
can talk. We can talk later about helping you out with a discount. You don't need to.
Don't need to open everything.
Don't need to open
There's a
everything.
lot in there.
And then of course you've got
There's a lot in here.
the dos&d tote bag, which I'm sure
that's the one we're passionate about the
That's the
most.
prized
is
possession.
is the bag itself.
Oh
So
my goodness.
and OT, just before you go, how do we find you on socials and talk a little bit about your business?
So you can find me at OT Chisi. And at the moment, I'm a current online fitness coach. I am launching my 12-week program on the 6th of January.
Awesome.
That's a higher self. So if you search OT Chisi, you can find me on social media.
Love it.
That's
Fantastic.
on Instagram and TikTok.
So
Oh, TikTok too.
this episode will go out, I believe, around about the 13th of Jan. We can still do that 12-week program.
Yeah, definitely. You can.
Love it. There you go, guys. We were just talking about New Year's resolutions in another episode.
Exactly.
And one of the number one resolutions is getting fit.
That's right.
The man to help you get there.
Go see OT. He'll sort you out.
Come. Yeah, just DM me.
There you go.
I'll get
Easy.
you sorted. I'll get you fit.
Love it.
We love it.
As
Thank
long-
you.
Yeah. Oh,
Sorry.
no, you go.
I was just going to say, we just really appreciate you coming on. It's not I imagine it's not an easy story to share. Typically, we come on, we have a laugh with our guests, they talk about their life, and it's very lighthearted. This is probably a dark period of your life. It's a difficult time, and to be so open and honest, answer all our questions, we really do appreciate it. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story.
Well, I'm so thankful for you guys. You guys have been amazing hosts. You guys are lovely people, to be honest. And I've said this so many times. You guys should watch the show. You should continue to support. I love your content. And I just want
Appreciate
you
it.
guys to keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, AT.
Thanks, OT. It was awesome.